The Locked On Podcast Network presents the Big 6 in 60. The 6 biggest national sports stories from the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Get the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 60 minutes. The Big 6 in 60 starts now with the biggest story in sports.
What a huge win in LA.
You are Locked On Warriors.
I know Jimmy drinks great wine.
Your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
And there were just so many down the stretch of this game that I can point to, whether it was Draymond Green with a strip late in the game, just like his 9th awesome defensive play on the game, a lot of it on LeBron James, and he's going nuts, or whether it was Steph Curry hitting big shots down the stretch, circus shots early in the game. Pods had himself a big moment, big moments, many of them. Let's break this thing down, Kolsky, piece by piece, and let's start with the fact that the Warriors were able to withstand every single storm that the Lakers threw at them. Until the very final whistle, they answered the bell. They went into this game with a loss. They would have been all the way down to 8th in the standings. Now they're a game back of 4th. This was a massive game and one that the Warriors came to play and held on, to say the least. They held on. Whew.
Yeah, what a night, man. What a fun game of basketball. That was an absolute delight. And, I try to say it every time, but just appreciate these LeBron and Steph matchups while you're still getting them at such a high level. I mean, wow, both of them were spectacular tonight. And the difference really was the rest of the Warriors, Brandon Pajemski leading the way, obviously, but Moses Moody had big moments. Jonathan Kuminga had big moments. I mean, Draymond's defense continues to be exceptional. I saw somebody posting earlier about Defensive Player of the Year, and don't underestimate the effect that a big defensive night on a big nationally televised game with Reggie Miller saying, just give him the award, just give it to him already. Like that has an effect on voters. So, I think we talked about he's now the favorite, and I think he's in the driver's seat for that, provided things go reasonably well the rest of the way. Also in the chat, a few people have mentioned the lack of Anthony Davis really changes things for how the Warriors are able to attack the Lakers. And that allowed them to get into the paint tonight. It got Steph to the line over and over again. And I think once they get that going, then the threes fall a little easier. And like you said, like low turnover game, answered every Lakers run, a little shaky at the end, but you'll live with it. And really tremendous defense throughout by a variety of people on Luka Doncic. I'm not hearing you, Chuck, and I don't know if that's just me not hearing you or if that's...
That hasn't been this entire show, has it?
No, just now.
I was going to say, welcome, everyone, to Locked On Warriors, if that's the case. Now, the mute monster got me. I was going to say that Anthony Davis, though, I didn't even think about that as the game's going on. I'm like, the Warriors look like a great matchup for the Lakers. If you saw them 5-4 all of a sudden, I don't hate the prospects of that going down. I don't hate it. After seeing them without Anthony Davis. Still really good, but I do think that you match up pretty well. Granted, it took a unconscious effort from Brandon Pajemski. It took an all-world defensive performance from Draymond Green, which you brought up before the game, I was going to say. You said yesterday, I think Draymond's going to come out with something to prove. He knows what's at stake here, and you were right.
He was so awesome tonight. I mean, you look at the box score and you wouldn't know it. Butler, too, for that matter. Neither of them had big box score games. They both were monsters out there. And look, the Lakers are really good. The Warriors played pretty well front to back in this game. Lakers hung with them in the first quarter and then nearly pushed this thing to a really tense place in the late minutes. But and there will be nights where you'll do exactly the same thing and Luka will score 35 on you, So you don't love very many of the playoff matchups. Like if you could somehow match up with Memphis in the first round, that would be great. But otherwise, it's pretty tough out there. But you're right. Like if it's the Lakers or Denver, I think you take your chances with LeBron and Luka.
I'm worried about Reeves, man. I mean, you know
He's
what you're going to
tough.
get from Luka, but Reeves has been killing the Warriors all year.
He
And
is
Luka
tough.
early, man, he was going for that foul. He was baiting, and the refs were not buying it. And when Luka is not getting the call, his game's just so funny to watch, man.
He is a confounding and fascinating player. But he's also, look, tonight,
When he's
19,
in rhythm, he's incredible.
He was 19, 8, and 7 with 1 turnover tonight. He actually played a few possessions of what I would call spirited, if not excellent defense. And like that was not a good game. So that guy's terrifying. He's terrifying.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like the Warriors match up reasonably well with this version of the Lakers, and it's not for nothing that they've beaten both of the Lakers' stars en route to championships in the past.
That they have. The young nucleus. Brandon Bajemski, 28 on 10 of 17, 8 of 10 from 3, including a half quarter going into the locker room, a little in front of half court, but a little 35-foot runner, banks it in. Okay, that was the 6th he had in the first half. So 28 for him, 13 from Moses Moody. He had his moments. He's been really good defensively as of late. I think there's a reason Steve Kerr went from playing him 14 minutes to 35 in the last game and 29 today. He's really starting to trust what Moody brings to the table. And then Kuminga, I thought he was really good. I look at the rebounds, 9 of them. I look at the assists, 4 of them. I look at 0 turnovers. I mean, you don't love Kuminga taking threes, but they were all within the flow of the offense. They were good looks. He hit one of them. He had 18. He was a +9. Those three guys win you the game. Like, that's your difference. Curry was the star of the show at 37, 13 of 14 from the line. He was getting there. He was foul baiting hard on that 3 for a stretch and got to the line a couple of them, I think. At least one trip. I thought it was 2.
JK tonight, he came in that first quarter, and in 7 minutes, he had 6 points and 4 boards. And it was the rebounds that probably stood out more than the points. He was perfect tonight. I mean, if that is the Kuminga you get, look, we're not going to talk about his minutes anymore because it's a tired subject at this point, and it is what it is. But if he's going to give you positive contributions, crashing the boards, playing great one-on-one defense, which, look, he gets lost out there defensively sometimes, off the ball especially, but when he buckles down, he's as good a one-on-one defender as they have on this team, and he showed you that tonight on Luka. Attack the rim, rebound the ball, play defense, and you're good. That as somebody in the chat just said, that is the Jonathan Kuminga you need.
There's nothing like the energy of an MLS match, the chance, the atmosphere, the last minute goals. If you want to experience it all live, Gametime makes getting tickets easier than ever. With last minute deals, all in prices, and a low price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying MLS or any other tickets. Plus, ticket prices actually drop as kickoff gets closer, so you can score amazing seats at a great price. I just checked the Gametime app, and there are incredible deals for this weekend's match, cheaper than I expected. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast.
We got to talk about Ja Morant because he's been all over the news headlines, by the way. And for those who didn't know, the NBA concluded, its celebration. I mean, it's an investigation. I said celebration. Investigation into the celebration with Ja Morant, the what do you call it, the gun gesture celebration, the 3-point celebration that he and several other Grizzlies players do. And according to the multiple reports out there, the league just issued warnings. And if you listen to the last episode of Locked On Grizzlies, we talked about it from the standpoint that this wasn't something I think the league aggressively was looking at. Like, this was something that people were inquiring to the league about, and the league responded and said, okay, we'll do our due diligence. Yeah, nothing there. We'll give them a warning. Life goes on. I think that's pretty much the realm of what this situation was. But moving on to basketball, the Grizzlies needed Ja Morant to really be good, and Ja Morant wanted to be good. These last few games, right, the Grizzlies are losing 7 of their last 8 games, and I've been in the locker room. Ja's frustrated. Like, he has been frustrated. He just wants to win, and he said, man, this ain't us. All this losing, this is not us. And with the game on the line, look who delivered. Ja Morant getting the buzzer beater, lifting the Grizzlies to the 110-108 win against the Miami Heat. And this first segment, we're going to talk about Ja being Ja, because that's what it's all about at this point. And it's going to be mostly hoops. We're going to talk mostly hoops here, but there are some narrative things that carry over to the basketball floor that are really important to point out as we talk about Ja Morant being Ja Morant. The number one thing that I want to touch on that we saw in this game, all these things are things that we saw in this Miami Heat game. A Heat game, in this game, we saw Ja Morant score 30 points. He shot 11 of 22 from the field, had 3 points at halftime. 27 of his points came in the second half. He had 16 in the third quarter while dealing with foul trouble. He had 11 in the fourth quarter to close the game. 5 rebounds, 3 assists. It was mostly a get buckets day for him. Three three-pointers made as well. Terrific game for him, and they needed it, right? Desmond Bane was 6 of 23 from the field, did have 17 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 assists, but 6 of 23 shooting, 1 of 9 on 3-pointers. Jaren Jackson Jr., 5 of 11 from the field, 3 of 5 on 3-pointers. But Ja Morant was Ja Morant. He was special in this one. But we're going to talk about Ja being Ja. And the 3 things that I want to focus on here. Number 1 is the celebrations. I'll be briefly on this. We talked about he knocked down 3 3-pointers, and you know what you saw after each of those 3-pointers? You saw the same celebration that has kind of made the waves around the league. What I got from that in terms of how it translates to the basketball floor is this is a more confident, this is a more, I think the word here, let's see. Yeah, confident might just be the word. This is just, he's more confident in his own skin. I think that's the way to put it. And what I mean by that is we saw Ja 2 years ago get in trouble, right? For the first time, March 2023, got in trouble, the whole gun situation then there was the second situation that came in May. But when that stuff happened, Ja shied away from anything close to mimicking gun celebrations. I mean, it was always all the way down to the music that he played. I remember before March 2023, Ja Morant will be in the locker room, and as he doing his interview or whatever, he's playing his certain type of music, his hip hop music that he likes to listen to. But after March 2023 happened, when I felt like we got this sheltered, this piece of a version of Ja Morant, he would be very cautious of the music that, he would, here comes the media. He would turn his music down and things like that. And you just knew, like, this is a buttoned up version of Ja Morant. So I wanted to see, to a lesser degree, like after, he's been in the headlines again, are we going to see a Ja that's going to be a little bit more buttoned up? Or are you going to see hey, man, I'm still the same guy. Like, y'all ain't changing me. And I think it's more of the latter now. Like, he is who he is. And he knows that now. Whereas it's not trying to kind of, change himself to be who others want him to be. That's a really big part of this thing. Ja Morant after the game had some really interesting comments about how he's responding to negative criticism. And he said, I'm kind of used to it. I was pretty much, a villain for 2 years now. Every little thing, if somebody can say something negative about me, it's going to be out there. So, yeah, I don't care anymore. He doesn't care anymore. That's a perfect example of that. He came back still being himself. Now, Some people will see that and say, Ja just doesn't get it. Others will say he's being himself. I like to see it. At the end of the day, he's not in trouble. So, look, confidence is one of the main factors of the game of basketball. We talk about it all the time. As a coach, you have to instill confidence in your players. You want your players to be confident. And that was a way of seeing Ja Morant's confidence carry over. And we saw how it impacted his performance as well. Another thing that impacted his performance was playing through foul trouble. And that was another big one. This game, Ja Morant, and it was self-inflicted, which you can argue the first thing that we talked about was probably self-inflicted too. But self-inflicted foul trouble in this game. I think Ja picked up his third foul in the game in the third quarter after it was a frustration foul. It's something that Ja says, look, I'm working on it. Paraphrasing here. He's basically said he's working on, those situations where he's driving to the basket, he wants a foul, and he's complaining to the referee. And, you see it a lot. The action's continuing, and Ja still talking to the referee, and the other team has an advantage or whatever the case may be. Ja said, look, I'm working on it, but it's tough. As a competitor, it's tough. And then I get it. Me personally, I get that. Because as I get competitive sometimes, and you're not thinking about the big picture. You're thinking about that moment. But with all that being said, Ja picked up that third foul literally after he felt like there should have been a whistle blown. That he get the rebound. He shoves Alex Burks, who has the basketball, who plays for the Heat, shoves him, gets a technical foul, frustration foul, and then later picks up his fourth foul with about 7 minutes left in the third quarter. Has to go sit on the bench. I'm thinking at this point, he's probably going to sit to the fourth quarter. That's a bad, especially for a guy who was rolling in the third quarter at this point. Tomasi Salo brought him back in the game. He brought Ja back in the game with about 2.5 minutes, 2:44, I think is the exact time that was left in the third quarter, and Ja continued to cook. Finished the third quarter, as we said, with 16 points, carried that performance over into the fourth quarter. Playing through that foul trouble was big. That's how you get the confidence from a coach right there. Because in this game, Isala may have looked at it like a risk. He's got 4 fouls. Because Ja wanted to go back in. He was hot. He was rolling. He's like, Coach, put me back in. Like, I got it going right now. Coach like, man, if you pick up this 5th foul, they're going to get me. He puts Ja back in. Ja Morant did not pick up that 5th foul in the third quarter. He lasted into the fourth. He takes his little break that he usually takes, after he plays a few minutes into the fourth quarter, comes back in, closes the game, wins it at the buzzer. So the other one that I was going to talk about here is embracing the villain role, but I think that kind of goes into, the thing with the celebrations and the quote that I just said. As Jaren Jackson put it, I wouldn't boo Ja Morant. That's what Jaren Jackson Jr. said. And then Ja Morant, when he was told that quote, he said, yeah, me either. He talked about how the boos from the Miami Heat fans motivated him in the second half. If you watch the game, in the first half, it wasn't really many boos outside of the normal. But in the third quarter, after Ja shoved Alec Burks and picked up that technical foul, he started hearing some more boos. And that's when, his, as you some people like to say, his villain story. That was the origin of his villain story in this game against Miami Heat. 27 points in the second half for Ja Morant. Look, the celebrations were a sign of the confidence. And look, depending on whatever you think about it, at the end of the day, it shows how confident he is. I think we all can agree to that, whether you say, oh, I want him to stop doing the celebrations, or whether you're saying, Ja, keep being you. At the end of the day, the guy's in a confident mode. This is not the sheltered version that we saw after March 2023, after May 2023, when he came back that next season and didn't really appear to be the same Ja Morant that we had saw over the previous years. He's playing through foul trouble. That's going to be big. That's something that can come to play in the playoffs as well. So a lot of good things to take away from Ja being Ja. That was the real big takeaway, as well as he picked up some big baskets down the stretch of that game, leading the Grizzlies to a much needed win for the Grizzlies over the Miami Heat.
Houston's in the Final Four, got some Blue Devils in their way.
You are Locked On Cougs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars.
Duke this weekend. I got to be honest, I've watched a lot more Duke basketball in the last 4 or 5 days than I ever thought I would. Going into this, they are very talented. They are very good. And just because I know we're both Rockets fans, I certainly wouldn't kick a couple of their guys off the Rockets. But like you said, it's not always about having the best couple freshmen. The Fab Five did not win a national title, right? And so when you see this Duke team, because you do your own basketball, your own podcasting, all that kind of stuff, what do you see, Mike?
Talent. I mean, Cooper Flag is sick. I mean, the guy just, there are certain guys that the game just slows down for, and Flag's that guy. Like, Flag is it. You look at him and you're like, okay, bar none, going to be the number 1 pick in the draft this upcoming year. You look at the kid from South Sudan, Kaman Malawak, who is a beast. I mean, that guy on the boards is a monster. Not super great offensively, but they don't need him to be. And then there's Swiss Army knife, this kid Knuppel, Khan Knuppel, which, I mean, it's about those 3 guys, right? Like, you come into this game and it's that triangle, right? And what's so funny to me, Parker, is like when you talk about even teams in the NBA or U of H, right? It's okay, if we stop this one guy, then we can win. I'm like, it's not always about that, because players like that will always get theirs. They're always going to average, Cryer's going to get somewhere between 12 to 20-ish points most nights. Where you lose is where you give up that like 8 to 10 points like to a guy like Terrence Arsenault, right? Or if you let Sharp go for 24 while Cryer goes for 18 and Tugler gets 10 and Roberts pitches in with 16, it's that cascade of the older guys that just kills you. I love this matchup for U of H. I might be in the minority. I absolutely love it with everybody not named Cooper Flag. I don't know what they're going to do with Flag. To me, you double him. I think you've got not the whole game, but you have got to throw bodies at this guy. Not just because he's the bona fide number 1 pick, but it's just you got to throw him off his game. You got to throw him a couple wrinkles. U of H also does not have those types of guys, those big wing type of guys. You got Sharp, you got Malik Wilson, you got Uzan, you got Cry. Those are not big guys. Tugler's not quick enough to play with Flag the whole game. Neither is Roberts, neither is Francis. So that's basically our entire arsenal that we have. So how are they going to play with Flag is going to be the key to this game. But I think they've got more than enough. They're just going to play harder than Duke. I think U of H, that's how they win this game. Just play U of H basketball for 40 minutes. Nonstop, punch you in the mouth defense, hard fouls. When you get a shot at Flag, respectfully, not in a negative, hit him to hurt him, but give him a nice foul. This is the Final Four. This is a chance to go to the championship. You play hard. And I'll tell you what, Sampson, if he's known for anything, he will get his guys to play hard.
Yeah, I'm really excited for Houston that this is the Final Four game, because you get the most days to prepare. Yep. And Sampson's going to have a handful of options defensively. I thought what they did against Purdue, where like they would just call a timeout and come out in a completely different cover. They go from Dublin TKR, and then they go high post on him, make him force baseline, and then a couple, didn't work. So a couple timeouts or a couple possessions later, call another timeout, media timeout, or whatever it was, and they go to something different, right? Like they had options they'd clearly practiced. I don't know what they're going to end up in against Cooper Flag. I do think, like you're saying, they're going to double him out the gate. I almost feel like I'd probably leave Juwan on him and then double with speed to kind of counteract. So I have size and speed there, and peeling off of wherever you peel off for on all of that. I also wonder, Coach spent 2 months with Coach Popovich. Pop's thing was always like, hey, we're going to let your guy get 50. I'm going to make sure no one else scores, and you can't win. I don't know which option they go with there. I do think, though, that Sampson having this many days, correct me wrong, I'd rather play them in the Final Four than the championship game, because I get more time to prepare for them, right?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, they're going to throw bodies at them. You're going to see a lot of these guys on them. You're going to see Tugler on them at some point. I mean, you've got. And it's so much easier said than done. Do they go with a box and one type of mentality? Like, okay, we're going to lock in on him. You are not going to beat us. And the thing is, you look at this Final Four. Sampson's been there before. John Shire has not been there as a head coach before. That is huge. You cannot say that enough. Like, Duke had to get on a plane, travel multiple hours to a different time zone to come play this game. U of H had to hop on a plane for about 7 minutes, and they get from from hobby to San Antonio. Their coach has been there before. He's got his whole family there. Sampson does. He's got his daughter, obviously Lauren. He's got his kid, who's the associate head coach. You've got Quantas White, who's still with him, who's going to take the job, obviously, at Louisiana after this game. They play again, man. They played last year. U of H had that game, a shot at the end. This is a legacy game for Sampson. Like, I cannot say that enough. That everything. That's what scares me. Everything is lined up for them to win this thing. Because whoever wins between U of H and Duke will beat Tennessee or Florida. Or not Florida or Auburn. I don't care how good they are. Whoever wins this game will beat Auburn or Florida.
And the Auburn Florida thing, for folks that listen to a lot of college basketball stuff, if you're a locked on college basketball fan or whatever, like, there's a whole other set of things on there. Just like they played however many times this year, SEC, all that. I do kind of wish there wasn't a guaranteed SEC team in the championship game. That's neither here nor there. It's interesting in watching and looking back at and scorebook watching, trying to figure out what games to study on Duke, because their 3 immediately preceding games of this were Baylor, Arizona, Alabama, all teams Houston has played. And I would argue like Houston looked better against Arizona than Duke did. They both looked good against Baylor. Duke probably looked better against Alabama than Houston did, but that was before Thanksgiving, right? So I don't know how to gauge that. They've both played. They both played Kansas. They played Arizona. Duke played Arizona in the pre-conference part of the season as well. Both played Auburn. A lot of common opponents here. And consistently, the deal is that Duke's got this high-flying offense, number one offense in KenPom, and Houston's got this elite, wear you down defense, number one defense in KenPom. Do you think it comes down to that side of the floor, Mike, or the other side, where it's Houston's number 10 offense versus Duke's number 5 defense?
It's such a great question, dude, because we've both been around the game so long. I played, I coached. What I know for a fact, defense wins championships. And it's not to say you have to have the number one defense, but you have to have guys that will girls that will lock in on the defensive end and get stops when you need them. You can have all the scorers you want in the world. You can have all the talent you want in the world. But when it comes down to it, if U of H is up by 1 with 10 seconds left, you got to play defense, right? And on the other side, if you've got to get a bucket, you look at this U of H team. And are they going to blow the doors off and score 110 points a game? No, that's not them. But if you got to get a bucket, I've got multiple guys that I can go to. I got Uzan. I got Cryer. I think Terrence Arsenault showed me something in the Tennessee game too. He was big. Like a guy who's just been on the floor for most of the year who doesn't stand out. He stood out in that Tennessee game.
Well, and in Tennessee, I would also point out, like, Houston had a decent lead, but when he came in, Jalen Roberts had just gotten a second foul pretty early.
Huge.
They were going to go small. And like that kind of felt like a time where Tennessee could take a chunk of the lead away. And Arsenal had 8 straight points to say, nah, we're not doing that. No. And like he has those kinds of flashes where like he is that good. And so it'd be interesting to see if he has another one of those kind of moments here. I pulled up on Basketball Reference. Houston is the slower paced team. Houston has had games, though, whether it's 72 against Arizona, 76 against Baylor. I'm trying to pull it up. Like they scored 81 against Gonzaga in the second round. Don't get me started about the fact that Gonzaga was a second round game. They scored in the 80 against Tech, Kansas State, BYU. They get up there sometimes. Do you think this game's more likely to be close to 60 or close to 80?
Oh, it's going to be closer to 60. Because I think that Sampson is going to force this game into the 60s. He's not going to let Duke and their high-flying offense be high-flying. And when Jawan Roberts, the guy who has the most wins of any player in the history of the program. You've got LJ Cryer, who is going for trying to be the first guy to win a national title at multiple schools. Experience is going to be crucial in this game. Because the 3 guys we just talked about have not been there. Shire has been there as an assistant coach, I think twice, but he was not the main guy. This is their first time going through this. This is not Sampson's first time. It's not his first time at the rodeo, if you will, right? And I think that this game is going to be in the 60s. I mean, I know U of H are dogs in this game. I think they're 4.5-point dogs. I love Houston outright in this game. I cannot talk about how like U of H is not going to come into this game and get blown out. There's no way. I don't see a way because Samson won't let them. They may not win, but they're not going to get blown out. And if they're not going to get blown out, give me U of H's experience within that program to get this game to the finish line.
Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you stop just managing your money and you can start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year.
Giannis has done a lot of special things throughout his career, and during tonight's win against the Sixers, he did something for the first time in his career.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast.
The Bucks beat the Zombie Sixers by 13 points tonight, 126-113. And with this win, the Bucks do slide back into fifth place in the East because the Pistons were idle tonight, and now they both have the same record. And if one asks, like, well, how did the Bucks win this game against the Zombie Pistons or Zombie Sixers? It's Giannis, and more Giannis. A monster triple-double for Giannis tonight. 35 points, 20 assists, 17 rebounds for the Greek Freak. And listen, a playmaking version of Giannis is the version I think that the Bucks need, especially with Dame out. But this was a next-level type of performance from Giannis. This was the first ever 35 point, 20 assist, 15 rebound game. Jokic and Wilt, and let's just stop there. When you're with Jokic and Wilt, like, you already know what type of company you're in. The two of them have had 20 rebounds and 15 assists with 35 points, triple doubles, but never have we seen a 20 assist triple double with the 35 points at least and at least 15 assists. It's the first ever 35-20 game in Bucks history, only the 8th in NBA history, according to our good friend Justin Garcia. It's the third most assists in franchise history behind Scott Skiles and Guy Rogers. First 30-15-15 game of Giannis' career high 20 assists. Again, just a monster performance from Giannis tonight.
Yeah, Justin and I talked in the last one about, it was one of those appreciate Giannis's greatness games the last time we saw the Bucks. And, I know we try to not gloss over that, Camille. There's so many games where he has like 30 points and 12 rebounds and 6 assists. And it's like, well, that's average Giannis night. So we talk about other guys because that's usually, what swings games, right? You just sort of become numb to what Giannis does and can easily take it for granted. So this is the second game in a row. Let's make sure we're not taking this version of Giannis for granted.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as, there was that period post All-Star break where, it just seemed like he wasn't quite himself. And even tonight, he missed a dunk early, missed a couple layups early.
He normally would make.
But then kind of found his groove. Sixers, just did not have kind of the physicality, size, personnel to match up with him tonight. And he was just incredible. And the playmaking obviously is what made this game unique. We've seen, he averages almost 31. So like the 35 points, ho hum, right? We see him do that very regularly. He did hit another 3. Also another great free throw shooting night. He's 21 of 23 from the free throw line these last 2 games. So maybe we don't want to talk about that too much, but great time to be making free throws in the spring as we near the playoffs. So that was, obviously really nice to see as well. But yeah, 20 assists, only 2 turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
And I went back on Bucks, they had kind of all of his assists and no real like cheapies. Like there was one like dribble handoff to Taurean Prince where Prince took a couple dribbles and, scored. And so that, might say like, oh, that's like, he didn't really like do much to create that shot. But other than that, it was Giannis attacking off the dribble, kicking out, doing acrobatic stuff in the air. We saw the around the back pass to Kevin Porter Jr. for a dunk in the first half. We saw a beautiful wraparound pass with his left hand to Kuzma for a layup. He was working that inside out kind of high-low game with Brook all night long. We've seen him do that all season long for years, using Brook's size and just having the confidence to throw the ball down to the big fella. And fittingly, that was how he got his 20th assist. Although it looked almost like
me for a second.
Yeah, it looked like Brook was like almost going to kick it out, which is like, how often does Brook Lopez catch the ball, 2 feet from the basket and then pass it out, right? Like Brook is like a pretty tunnel vision guy when he sort of sets his mind that he's going to score. So yeah, you could almost hear people on the floor being like, shoot it. And so he reconsidered and put it away. But yeah, not a lot of dribbles on those Giannis assists. Other guys, right? Like, a lot of spot up threes, a lot of layups, and you had Pat Connaughton on a kind of typical like Connaughton cut where Giannis, passed right over the defense from the high post. So yeah, I mean, we don't take it for granted, but again, this is, a 7 foot, 250-pound guy just playing like a point guard, running pick and roll, attacking, a set defense from the top, dribble driving, going between his leg, just architecting the offense. And there isn't anybody else this size who's ever been able to do these types of things. Yeah. And for him, to again just continue to be doing this, continue to be playing at the level that he is, again, because of where the Bucks are in the standings, right? It's not going to get the shine that it deserves. But it was nice in the aftermath of this game, like just looking on, social media, like a lot of people from, non-Bucks accounts, league-wide people were kind of opening their eyes saying like, whoa, like that is a monster line from a guy that, we've seen a career full of monster lines from. And, for him to do something that's never been done in league history, that obviously he hasn't done before either, that takes a pretty special performance. And, like last night, last time out, you kind of took him on his back and said, like, we're not going to lose. This one, they were able to stretch the lead out a little bit, but, plus 23 in a, whatever it was, 13-point win, kind of told you about what his effect was on the game. And, again, probably took the Bucks a little bit longer than you would have liked to put this one away. But hey, because of that, we got to see a little bit longer Giannis. And, if they had turned it into a laugh, we probably don't see 20 assists. So we got to see some history tonight. And at a period of time when there's not tons to get excited about with the Milwaukee Bucks, it's nice that we can count on Giannis to be just, again, the greatest player that we'll ever watch in a Bucks uniform and just reminding us night in and night out.
Yeah, and that is why I continue to say, as long as the Milwaukee Bucks have Giannis on this team, like the championship window is open, because he by himself is going to hold that up. Just a monster performance from him. And I did see some people trying to say like, hey, it took all of that for the Bucks to beat the Sixers. And it's like, listen, sometimes it'd be like that, but you're thankful to have a guy who can put a team on his back like that and help them through the finish line to get the dub, because this was a Sixers team that was playing really hard. And we've talked a lot about where the Bucks have been struggling over their recent, last 15 games, 4, 5, 6 games in particular here, especially with the turnovers and the offensive rebounds that they've been giving up. But even with the kinks in the armor there, when you have 34 on your team, like, you already have a built-in advantage, and the Bucks leaned on that tonight against the Sixers. But with Giannis being able to put a performance like that together, where he has 20 assists, I believe the Bucks finished with like 32 total assists on the night. So Giannis, 20 of the 32 assists from the Milwaukee Bucks tonight. A performance where you saw 7 total Bucks finish in double-figure scoring again. Now, you mentioned it, Frank, and I thought it was a great way to put it, of like, hey, Giannis is that engine that makes it go, and we lean on him, and normally we highlight the other guys because we're used to Giannis doing what he does. But we had to open the show talking about what Giannis did, especially when it's something that has never happened in NBA history.
There's nothing like the energy of an MLS match, the chance, the atmosphere, the last minute goals. If you want to experience it all live, Gametime makes getting tickets easier than ever. With last minute deals, all in prices, and a low price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying MLS or any other tickets. Plus, ticket prices actually drop as kickoff gets closer, so you can score amazing seats at a great price. I just checked the Gametime app, and there are incredible deals for this weekend's match, cheaper than I expected. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime.
The Florida Gators are facing the Auburn Tigers tomorrow in the Final Four.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators.
The Florida Gators face the Auburn Tigers tomorrow at 6:09 Eastern Time, PM, of course. And it's going to be a battle, right? There's no other way to describe it. This is Auburn, the number 1 overall seed, as much as they shouldn't have been. This is Auburn, the number 1 team in the country for most of the year, against Florida, a team that actually won the SEC tournament, and also a 1 seed, and beat Auburn earlier this year. And look, we can take that game, Florida versus Auburn, the first time, and you can kind of throw it out the window, right? It was 2 months ago. Florida won by 9 in Auburn, but who's counting? Florida did not have Elijah Martin in that game. Florida did not have Micah Hanlogton in that game either. 2 guys that play valuable minutes for this team right now. And when we talk about how the Florida Gators can win this game and what they need to do to win this game, it starts with winning down low, right? And winning down low in this sense is the equivalent of winning in the trenches in football, right? You know, you got a great O-line, great D-line. You can dominate the line of scrimmage, and even teams that are more finessey, 3-point shooting, you can still beat them that way. Like, you can get gritty, you can get dirty there. And Florida has been absolutely hammered in the paint since the start of the SEC tournament. This is the thing that we've talked about quite a bit on this show, both in terms of allowing points in the paint and allowing offensive rebounds, or more appropriately, not securing defensive rebounds, because it is, I know it's not as simple as that, but it kind of is as simple as that. Secure your defensive rebounds, and the other team can't get offensive rebounds. And Florida's done a horrible job of that since the start of the SEC tournament. I've said this multiple times. It's been a thing I keep complaining about. You can watch the film, and guess what? That backs it up. You can look at the numbers, which I've said many times, and that backs it up as well. Florida's offensive rebounding allowed rate has gotten about 5% worse since the start of the SEC tournament. Not exactly an ideal situation to be in, right? So Florida's been getting hammered there. You look at the Texas Tech game, and there was a stretch where Texas Tech just went, hey, Toppin, Williams, go ahead, post up, get into the paint, and hammer them, and just bully them there. Norfolk State had, I think it was 48 points in the paint against Florida. UConn had success in the paint against Florida. Florida's been getting hammered down low. And I've said before that perhaps it's because of Alex Condon's ankle is bothering him a little bit more than he's letting on, especially when you talk about the back-to-back games that you've got to play. The SEC tournament is 3 days in a row. March Madness, you're playing 2 games, and you're playing like a game every other day for the weekend, and then you've got those days off during the week. And maybe that's aggravating him a little bit more. But Florida needs to have the energy that they had against Maryland on the glass, because Maryland, there were long stretches of time where commentators were kind of just like, Maryland hasn't gotten a rebound in minutes at this point. There's a long stretch of time there, and you need to have that kind of energy and that kind of tenacity against Auburn when you're attacking the glass here. Like, Janai Broome is going to try and get to work early and often. That's what Auburn does. They want to get him going, get him moving, and get him involved early and often. And the Florida Gators need to do a couple of really important things with that, right? One, you need to force difficult shots without fouling. You can't force a difficult shot because you foul them, and now you're shooting free throws anyway, right? Like, you need to force difficult shots without fouling, and then you need to hustle to get these boards. Because when you watch Auburn, You're going to see Janai Broom, of course, is going to be around the rim going for his rebounds after his shot if he misses. But you're going to see Miles Kelly, Chaney Johnson, Dylan Cardwell, Chad Baker Mazzara, whoever else is also on that court with Janai Broom, except for maybe the smallest guard on the court at the time. They're all going to be going after the glass. So Florida's non-bigs need to be active here as well. Talking about the Maryland game, I loved the way that Will Richard seemingly attacked there. Maryland and Texas Tech. I feel like he's been putting more effort and more emphasis on defensive rebounding. So I would like to see Will Richard continue to do that. And then offensively, because again, I know that we've spent much of this time talking about what Florida allows or doesn't allow on the glass or down low. But offensively, Florida needs to do a couple things where I said this during the Texas Tech game, might have been the Maryland game. But during the last weekend of tournament games, I sent a message to the Subtext, the Insider program, and which, by the way, if you want to join, the link's in the description below, or go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnGators. But I said in there, I was like, hey, look, like Walter Clayton Jr. is getting the superstar whistle. Like he's gotten a couple calls where he probably shouldn't have gotten the call, where I don't believe he got fouled, but he's getting the superstar whistle. And if you're going to get the superstar whistle, you got to take advantage of that. So for Florida, when I say win down low, I don't just mean with your bigs. I mean, Walter Clayton Jr. has to dribble, drive, penetrate, and get down low, get to the free throw line if possible. Like if you're getting the superstar whistle and you can get the superstar whistle against their superstar in Janai Broom, that's a double up, right? That's extra credit there. So if you can get low, get to the free throw line, or for Florida's bigs or anybody else to crash the boards and get second chance opportunities, like Auburn, one of the better defenses in the country. All four of the teams remaining in the Final Four are elite. Again, I can't stress how many times we've talked about this, where I know that people hate that there's no Cinderella, right? That there's no 12 seed that's still around. There's no anything like that. But what we are watching is the best of the best of all time playing against each other. We're not just talking about, oh yeah, these are the best four teams this year and that's it. No, we're talking about, according to Ken Palm, these are four of the top 10 teams of all time in college basketball. Yeah, you don't get the Cinderella, but you're getting as much quality as you've ever seen in college basketball. Okay, so they're going to be playing good offense. They're going to be playing good defense. I mean, we've talked about Houston, right? I don't know if their style of play will work against the elite of the elite, but against everybody else, it works. Their offense of just, hey, we're going to be really slow things down, going to get threes, going to crash the boards to get more looks, kill more time, shoot more threes. Like they're going to take that approach, and it's going to work fine for them. But for Florida in this game, you need to be able to attack what Auburn is doing, right? And Auburn, they're going to play good defense. They're going to attack the boards. You may not want to attack the boards as much as Auburn does, but you need to if you're Florida. That's an important thing there, where you need to be able to go out there and attack.
Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you can start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year.
The long-awaited contract extension for quarterback Geno Smith has finally arrived.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast.
It might have taken a while. We anticipated it for a long time, right? The Raiders made the trade for Geno Smith, the third-round pick going to Seattle. Geno Smith coming to the Raiders. They made that official on March 13th. And, well, I mean, it took till April 3rd until the contract extension was actually announced by Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, and others. Matter of fact, Schefter put out a few tweets. Quarterback Geno Smith signing a 2-year, $85.5 million extension that includes $66.5 million in guaranteed money with the Raiders. Smith is now under contract with the Raiders through the 2027 season. And to be clear, it's a 2-year, $75 million extension worth $85.5 million for Geno, who cashes in Las Vegas. So the incentives can make it up to $85.5 million. And then if you want to take a little bit deeper dive into all the money that Geno's going to make, including the year contract that he came to the Raiders with, that gives his total $116.5 million for 3 years, with the 2025 salary included in that. And the base value of the extension for the Raiders on that $75 million, that 2-year, $75 million extension, is will make Smith's deal $106 million for 3 years, gives you $35.3 million annually. That slides him in 17th overall. Right? There's 32 starting quarterbacks in the league. Geno Smith is slotted in at 17th. I saw people overreacting when the extension was announced before the numbers was out. It's like, oh, right, great. The Raiders are about to pay top 5 money. No. He's right where he probably should be, 17th. He's between Derek Carr, $37.5 million a year, and Sam Darnold, $33.5 million per year. That's according to overthecap.com. Very team friendly, very Geno Smith friendly. It's very rare that a deal could be both, but it is. It's good money, $66.5 million guaranteed for Geno Smith. And the guaranteed money is really all that matters at the end of the day. He didn't break the bank, but he's also not pinching pennies, right? I mean, he's still got some pretty decent coin, knowing that the guy is going to be a bridge quarterback, knowing at some stage of the game there's going to be a franchise quarterback in there. It's not going to be Geno Smith, but also he's a competent quarterback. I just really like the move for a lot of different reasons, including the fact that it leaves the Raiders still wide open, like some old school TV antennas, to do whatever they want to do in the upcoming draft, right? I mean, just similar to what happened when they traded for Geno Smith. And I said, well, now it doesn't make them desperate, and they can go and they can pick whoever they want at number 6, whether that's a quarterback, a running back, an offensive lineman, a defensive lineman, right? A cornerback, whatever, it wide open, right? Whatever they wanted to do at number 6, they can do since they acquired Geno Smith. They didn't have to be desperate and go get a quarterback. Well, after this extension, we've been talking about what's the structure going to look like? How much money is it going to be? How tight are they going to be to him? Without seeing the actual when they can get out of the deal and how front-loaded it is or how back-loaded it is, without seeing that, but just looking at the numbers, I mean, a 3-year deal, that's basically what he's got, 3-year deal. You can move that anytime you want. You can move that after 1 year if you have a rookie and you're ready to play him. So whatever they wanted to do heading into the draft, even after this extension is announced, they still can do. That's what I think. That's what I love about this deal. And on top of that, that's what I love about the moves that the Raiders have made so far under John Spytek, the GM, and Pete Carroll, the head coach. They haven't pigeonholed themselves. They haven't got themselves in a jam, right? They haven't had to back themselves into a corner and try to fight their way out. They haven't had to do that. I mean, think about it. They extended Max Crosby before any other edge rusher got extended. Remember, he was the highest paid non-quarterback in the league in NFL history for 4 days? And then Myles Garrett signed a deal that went from, Max making $35 a year to Myles getting $40. And now Micah Parsons is going to make more than that. Well, the Raiders got out in front of it. We're going to get our guy first and take care of that business. So they did that. That was smart. They made the trade for Geno Smith, so they didn't get stuck with Sam Darnold. They didn't get stuck with Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Aaron Rodgers. You name it, they didn't get stuck with that guy, right? They already had a guy that they felt comfortable with. Right. And they just have made a bunch of really good moves. They didn't pay these guys that were free agents for the team, their own guys. They didn't pay them a ton of money like you saw other organizations do, which is going to set the Raiders up for compensatory picks, coming up next year. Like, they've just made a series of really good decisions as far as I'm concerned. Now, does that translate into 10 wins next year? I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying we talk about adults in the room. It feels like for the first time in a long time, the Raiders have adults in the room making adult-like decisions. That's just my opinion on the deal. Again, I think it's a really good deal for Geno and really a good deal for the Silver and Black. Does not stop them from doing anything that they want to do. ESPN, Mina Kimes, NFL insider, NFL. She's fantastic at what she does, covers the Seahawks. She's a big fan of the Seahawks, knows all things Geno Smith, knows all things Pete Carroll. I actually caught up with her at the Radio Row leading into the Super Bowl. She was on NFL Live on Thursday talking about the Geno Smith deal.
I think this is a great deal for the Raiders. When you look at the extension, you added on to his existing contract. You're looking at 3 years, under $40 million a year. That is outside the top 15 for quarterback salaries in terms of annual average per year. I think that's a bargain. I've talked a lot about Geno Smith and what he brings to the table. Last year was a down year from a production standpoint, but if you dig a little deep into the numbers, a couple of stats I think that are pertinent to Raiders fans. Again, only in 2024, Geno Smith was second league-wide behind Joe Burrow in on-target percentage and fourth in completions percentage over expected. What that shows, I believe, is that in some pretty adverse circumstances in Seattle in terms of the pressure and the lack of run-pass balance in that offense, he was, above all, an accurate thrower of the football. It is not surprising to me that in addition to Pete Carroll wanting to reunite with him, Tom Brady saw that and liked it and probably 100% signed off on this deal. I think they still have to continue adding to the offense. Well, I suspect in the first round they will add a skill player, but I believe they've got a lot to work with, and I'm optimistic for Geno Smith this year.
So there's Mina Kimes giving her thoughts on the Geno Smith deal, and you hear what she had to say. Raider fans should be excited about this, and she's excited for Geno, but also the fact that that's a very good deal for the silver and black. That's not a deal. Again, I was surprised when I saw the numbers. I've been looking at anywhere between 40 and 45. Thought it was going to be a $100 million deal, 80 to 85 million fully guaranteed. No, 66.5 fully guaranteed. Not even a $100 million deal, not a 4-year deal, a 2-year extension. They did really well as far as I'm concerned. Also, on Thursday, we found out about the Raiders' offseason workout dates. The whole league announced their offseason workout dates, but, obviously what we care about is the Raiders, and Pete Carroll, being in his first year with the Raiders, gets to start his workouts a little bit early. Matter of fact, next week, April 8th, that's the first day for offseason workout dates. That is next week, Raider Nation. That is incredible. Voluntary minicamp, April 21st and 23rd. Obviously, the draft gets started first day on the 24th. There will be a voluntary minicamp 2 days before the draft gets started. OTA offseason workouts May 19th, May 21st through 22nd, May 27th, May 29th through 30th, and June 2nd through June 5th. Those are the OTA offseason workouts. And what matters the most? Mandatory minicamp. That's going to be June 10th through 12th, and then they'll break for the summer, and then they'll report back for training camp. Yeah, it's already that time. It is already that time. It is incredible that it happens that quickly. So those are the dates that you need to know. Sometime next week, not only will they get their first workout in, they'll also introduce Geno Smith. Maybe it's all on the same day on April 8th. They'll introduce Geno Smith to the media, and we'll get an opportunity to finally catch up with the Raiders QB.